哎哎，好好好好，嗯。对的，对的，火箭奥沙利文确实在中国具有非常高的人气，尤其是在上海。我们知道，在上海大师赛的13届比赛里面，火箭其实他5次杀入决赛，夺得了4次冠军。尤其是在过去的3届比赛，17年、18年、19年，他获得了3连冠。那今天晚上将是他冲击上海大师赛5冠王以及4连冠的第一步。那现场我们看到，现在距离比赛还有一定的时间，但是非常多的观众已经进来了。今天的门票是早早的售罄了，而且今天晚上的比赛，我想不只是观众要关注，参加本届斯洛克大师赛的其他选手也会异常的关注。今天下午，希金斯是击败了对手，他将迎战今天这场比赛的胜者。前面我在采访他的时候，他特别提到，虽然他已经在上海取得了2连胜，但是他接下来将要面对这场比赛的对手奥沙利文和卡特都是非常强劲的。希金斯感觉自己面对这场比赛的胜者会有一定的难度，但是他会全力以赴。今天晚上他会好好的钻研这场比赛，看看2个选手的这样的一些情况。主持人。对对对，所有的球迷都觉得，今天下午特朗姆普的这场比赛是非常的刺激，而且确实非常的惊险。实际上特鲁姆普他的状态进入的比较早，他一度取得5比2的领先，就让大家都以为他将或者以6比2的比分或者6比3的比分拿下比赛的时候，但是他的对手利索夫斯基连扳了3局，打成了5比5平，而且在最后一局中，其实利索夫斯基他是有取胜的希望，但是他在击打粉球的时候出现了一个失误把这个主动权让给了特鲁姆普，特鲁姆普就此一举实现了逆转赛后2名球员对这一个球的处理都是表达了非常幸运或者说非常遗憾的这样一种情绪。特鲁姆普也表示他今天有运气，也有这样的一个状态拿下了比赛，他觉得也算是开了一个好头，因为毕竟运气也是获得好成绩的一个必不可少的因素，而且他觉得自己此前在上海的成绩也是非常的出色，希望今天赢下比赛之后，特鲁姆普他接下来会好好的打好后面的比赛，能够取得最好的一个成绩。主持人，谢谢，可以好，谢谢。
The European Masters didn't quite happen. This is not a ranking event, but it's all the big hitters in the game, and this fascinating match, of course, there's a bit of history, to say the least, between these two, but the head-to-head is very one-sided. O'Sullivan leads it 15-1. Ronnie O'Sullivan centre stage at the grand stage here in Shanghai. He's won the last 3 stagings of the tournament. The last man to beat him in Shanghai, Michael Holt, in 2016. Of course, this is the first Shanghai Masters for 4 years. But it's a tournament he seems to really like, a city he really likes. And here he is, first match of the season, first match since Luca Brissell beat him in the quarterfinals of the World Championship. As ever, Neil, there's a lot of anticipation around his entrance.
And that's hardly likely to change anytime soon. It's the great Ronnie O'Sullivan, the greatest player ever to pick up a cue in my eyes and in the eyes of so many other people. Which, of course, he's got there not only by the talent we've always known about, but a lot of silverware, especially in some regards in the last decade. 7 world titles, perhaps the chance to break that at some point, overhaul Stephen Hendry. But for now, this event, and as Dave says, he's got a great record here in Shanghai. The head-to-heads, you pointed out that it's so one-sided. It's safe to say that, you know, that Carter win was a big one. I can't believe it was 5.5 years ago. It doesn't seem that long that he, in the 2018 World Championships, beat O'Sullivan, having never done so before, lost 2 world finals to him, but beat him he did, and it was a match with a bit of argy-bargy in it. But it is a very one-sided head-to-head. There aren't many players that have got a positive record against O'Sullivan, but Carter's is especially one-sided.
Of course, he has had a match, Ali Carter, already, but that was on table 2 yesterday. Beat Dong Jihao, one of the wildcards, 6-2. He made a few breaks there, including a century, but of course he was playing a young guy at wildcard. It's very different coming onto the main table against O'Sullivan. Best of 11 this. The winner plays John Higgins.
It's not a good safety shot straight away. He was up on the shot. He knew that he'd caught the reds too thick. Yeah, I mean, of course, with Ronnie, there's no way of knowing what he's going to play like, actually. Even though we know his records here, this tournament in some ways seems tailor-made for him and the kind of events he likes to play in. But it's a long time since his last match. As Dave said, the defeat from 10-6 up against Luca Brissell. Not getting any younger, so we'll, I think, watch and enjoy and just see what kind of performance he puts up. If he doesn't play well, Ali Carter's a little bit more match sharp, so it could easily be a test for him.
Didn't get a great kiss, so just the snooker behind the brown. Yeah, I mean, you look back last season, O'Sullivan, he didn't actually get past a quarter-final in a ranking tournament. He did win the Champion of Champions, which is high prestige, plus the Hong Kong Invitational event. So interesting to see how he starts the season. Bit of danger here, these reds all out in the open.
Foul. That means.
Yeah, trying to catch that bottom red. I think the cue ball's drifted far enough to give Carter some interest in the red below the black, but not straight enough to hold for the black. Because he could have the balls replaced, but he might feel that O'Sullivan will improve on the first attempt.
One.
Well, it helps Carter if that spots, and it does. Otherwise, it would have gone up on the blue spot, and this red wouldn't have been pottable into the top right, but it's no longer an issue.
8.
I think we know one thing about Ali Carter. I mean, we know that, you know, he's been a fighter off the table. Enough has been mentioned of his illnesses in the past, but on the table, he's a real hard match player now. I remember him when he first turned professional. He was a sort of flashy sort of player back then. Didn't really have the tactical nous to go with his potting. But as ever, as players mature, they become the complete player.
13.
And his all-round game is very solid. He plays safety as well as anybody. He's probably not as big a scorer as O'Sullivan, but then who is?
Yeah, and he's on the up, isn't he? I mentioned O'Sullivan's record last season, but Ali Carter got back in the top 16, helped to a large degree by winning the German Masters. His 5th ranking success. Number 11 in the world, so plenty to build on this season. He first played O'Sullivan as a professional 22 years ago. Nothing's changed in the meantime. He knows he's got to play well to win today. He might not win if he plays well, but surely he won't win if he doesn't.
21.
So chances like this early on, he'll be looking to take.
22.
Yes, hard to think the Reds could be spread any better. He can now just concentrate around the black spot for the foreseeable future in this break without too much to do. And I guess the other thing is that the match that he had on the table not only will give him some confidence,
29.
but it will help him with the conditions, which he'll become more accustomed to than O'Sullivan perhaps. Very rarely that even the practice tables play quite as slickly as the match table
30.
and responsively. Having said that, he's not gone far enough on that last shot. Wrong side of the blue. Has to go the long way down from blue to red.
$35.
A nice recovery pop
36.
there, although cue ball has been lost. Don't know whether the pink's potable. I don't think it is from there, so I think the break ends. So Carter was in, very much so, and now didn't make as many there as he could have done, so that will disappoint him, and that's a terrible safety shot.
Ali Carter, 36.
So an odd little break there.
Yeah, I mean, it went wrong when he didn't get right side of the blue, but that last shot, that will not please him from what was a definite framing position.
One.
Well, Sullivan
Seven.
Yeah, Sullivan has won 5 major titles in Shanghai, 3 ranking events and the invitation version of this twice. So he hasn't always played in every Chinese event, to say the least, but here in Shanghai, he does seem to enjoy it. He was at the opening ceremony yesterday, getting involved with the dignitaries as well. He did enter the Championship League and the European Masters, didn't play in either.
16.
think he'll be okay as the right-handed player who can play left-handed. He can just reach
23.
across on this shot. Obviously being careful he doesn't make a waistcoat foul, so deciding to opt for the rest instead, just because of the possibility of fouling the pink. So I think
24.
all eyes are on O'Sullivan here. We know what he is, we know what he can do, but it is a new season.
$31.
Well, I think the fact that it was played gently was the reason it just dropped in off the top jaw. There's a few gasps thinking that he'd maybe missed that one. Well, he has missed that one, so
RonnieO'Sullivan 32.
both players have been in once with very good chances in this frame, but there's nothing in it. Just a handful of points. Anything he has done, of course, is block the pocket. He missed the black, but left it close to the pocket. The reds won't pass behind the black ball.
One.
Really nice cueing. The cue ball stopped where exactly where the object ball was, the red. So, second bite of the cherry for O'Sullivan. Nothing in the frame, 1 point behind, but you can feel that everything boils down to the red on the right of the table, getting position on that one.
9.
So this is the big shot in the frame so far, position on the red.
$16.
It's not so easy into the right corner. That's why he's playing it. Such a good shot that is. That really is a good shot.
17.
Could easily be a frame winner. He's up to it, including the brown, so there's a little bit of work to do. Don't necessarily think that the green is all that difficult where it is if the cue ball is placed nicely behind it.
22. $24. $27.
Yeah, interestingly how he played that there. Naturally would have come quite close to the pink in playing for the blue. He didn't play on the blue at all. One snooker required, but it's only one. So obviously Carter will try to get that snooker.
31.
And the frame isn't quite over yet.
No, but what a chance he had earlier to win it. In fact, it was getting wrong side of the blue where his problem started. The break ended. He played a poor safety. O'Sullivan got in a second time. Pretty good first effort, though.
Might be a possible swerve here. He is looking at two cushions, perhaps. Yeah, that's the way he's gone. can't think of, you know, an awful lot of frames O'Sullivan has lost from the point where his opponent needed snooker. It must have happened over such a long career, but I don't think I can recall many instances of it.
Got him again.
Yes, got him again, and also the blue in the centre of the table. It's slightly more missable, this sort of a shot, but not from O'Sullivan there. Doesn't really want to pot the blue, although he may have to try and get one on the pink and black.
Carter, though, he's like a dog with a bone, isn't he, here? You know, it's probably going to be O'Sullivan's frame, but he senses a chance to shift the early psychology of the match if he could get the snooker and steal it.
5.
So down to pink and black we go.
Can't think of an easy way of getting a snooker here. Maybe very thin off the pink. But of course, on pink and black, O'Sullivan can freely try and roll the pink in or over a pocket here and put the frame to bed that way.
I think that's the problem with pink and black, isn't it? Your best chance is quite often the first chance. If you don't get it first time, then you open the door to this.
Not sure why O'Sullivan didn't just try and drop that in. Maybe when players play the ball so gently, it doesn't run true, but there's a glimmer for Carter, I guess. Glimmer of hope. Unlucky.
So can O'Sullivan put the frame to bed? I know one thing, whoever comes through, it's a brutal section of the draw, isn't it? John Higgins is there, Judd Trump, and then either Mark Selby or Hussein Fafai in the top half.
I think on that instance, O'Sullivan was just concerned about trying to pot it and the possibility of going it off. Again, good effort this, but just slid past the black. That's a rather odd shot, isn't it? Why wouldn't you pot that? Why wouldn't you try and pot the pink there? I can't think of a reason. Well, that's another shot that I can't explain. And Ali Carter, a little sidelong look. He actually wasn't a million miles from the off there. Ali looked over and said, what on earth happened on that shot? It is one snooker. Carter is fully entitled to play on. So it's not some kind of a O'Sullivan protest at the fact that Carter's playing on. Anyone would. But he's refused the last two pinks, Ronnie, and came perilously close to an in off there. There's a bit more conventional, that last shot. The other thing to say, I mean, I don't know if it's a big rivalry because I think Ali's been in the studio when Ronnie's been in there for Eurosport, but they're not great buddies, these two. Let's not to pretend they are. They had their little spat at the Crucible, the match that Carter won. Not building it up into something that it's not. They're just not close friends. That's all I'm saying.
Well, surely he's going to attempt it this time. He does, and he knocks it in. So an interesting start. Ali Carter did have a good chance, you've got to say, early in that frame. But in the end, it is Ronnie O'Sullivan starting his 32nd season as a professional who gets the opening frame on the scoreboard. Well, it's always interesting, I think, when these two play. As Neil said, it's very one-sided, the head-to-head, but there always seems to be a little edge. I think it actually goes back to sort of days even before they were pros, as sort of practicing together and known each other a long time. A couple of world finals in there as well. Quite different people, but two great competitors. But as I say, Carter will look back on that frame feeling he definitely had chances. And that was the winning ball eventually going in.
Safe to say there's always an air of excitement when O'Sullivan enters a stage, and especially first match that he plays in the season, and this is where we're at today.
Yeah, I mean, any event with him in, he's obviously enhanced. You know, we have great events that he's not in, but there's always, we've seen it from the audience here, the great expectation and excitement when he plays, and that will continue as long as he's here at the grand stage this week. Peggy Lee setting the balls up for frame 2 of a possible 11 here in Shanghai. Ronnie O'Sullivan has won the last 3 stagings of this tournament, and he leads Ali Carter 1-0, playing for a place in the quarterfinals against another all-time great, John Higgins.
Oh, that's a beautiful shot. That really is the best we've seen in the frame and a little bit of this session. A little unlucky perhaps there not to be on one.
8.
Yeah, the thing is, he's not been missing, has he? I mean, in the last frame, he broke down, ran out of position again there. You know, he's always going to give it everything. He's shaking his head there, not necessarily happy with the safety. Yeah, that's why.
1.
When you pop those long reds, there's almost a part of you that wants to hit a bolt colour, whereas if you're playing the safety shot without a ball going in, you want to miss them. Just think about Ali Carter's World Championships. He had a good season in the build-up, getting himself back into the top 16, but lost in round 1 to Jack Jones, the qualifier, which didn't look a particularly good result, albeit Jones had already beaten Barry Hawkins in the qualifiers. So in the first round at the Crucible, lost to Jack Jones, who then went on to almost frank the form. I mean, he played so well after that. Beat Neil Robertson. Mark Allen had to play pretty well to beat Jack Jones, so it wasn't such a bad result as it first seemed.
Well, that's a bit of a let-off for Carter. He just caught the knuckle of the middle pocket to leave a chance at the red. But of course, getting back in the 16, he was seeded with the Crucible. OK, he did lose first round, but you get in events like this as well. You're not having to pre-qualify for home nations, UK Championship, you're seeded. Obviously the Masters in January, and he'll hope to still be there, of course, at the end of the season again for the World Championship. So there's definite benefits to that top 16 seeding. Being the champion of champions as well, having won in Germany. So a lot of snooker to look forward to for the captain.
Well, the double goes in, but again, not very well on a colour to pot one.
RonnieO'Sullivan 1.
Unusual sort of safety shot that, wasn't it? Well, why did he play it like that? I mean, it's pretty effective. I think the roll up to the bulk colour is ineffective there because, you know, the pack are tightly bunched. The opponent's just going to nudge into them. Maybe that was clever from Ronnie to make him play a shot to get the balls open. But this is not an easy long red. Well, it's brought about a chance for Ali Carter, who had chances in frame one. Got another one here at the start of frame two. Got to take them.
One.
Of course, he is a former winner of the title when it was a ranking event, 2010. Beat Jamie Burnett in the final to win what was then his second ranking title. He also won the World Open here in China in 2016. He's very good at motivating himself, I think, Carter. You know, when the shootout finished, Chris Wakelin took the high break off him, didn't he, in the very last frame? And he said after that, OK, that's gone. I'm going to go and win the next tournament. And he did. It was the German Masters.
15.
I think he'd be happy enough with that.
22.
It looks like he's going through the bunch here, playing with topspin. Goodness, if you're playing it, you can't miss the pot. That's the one thing that cannot go wrong. And Ronnie was very quickly out of his chair when he saw the balls flying around there. The red to the middle, he'll be hoping he's on, but this has gone horribly wrong from Carter.
1.
Sullivan will be licking his lips at an opportunity of this kind coming his
7.
way.
8. $10. 11.
What a chance it is. Yes, there are a couple of reds that are not in the middle of the table, but they don't look as if they're that awkward to get on.
He's 48 in December, O'Sullivan. I mean, there was a time when that was sort of considered ancient in snooker, but, you know, he looks well, doesn't he, coming into the new season? Obviously, #1 in the world still. A lot of that was down to that World Championship, of course, in 2022. Those points will be coming off at the end of this season. So there is some work to do through the campaign, but, well, we'll see plenty of him, I'm sure.
26.
Of course, his two great contemporaries still going in this event, Williams and Higgins.
27.
Both won earlier today.
Yeah, I think it's the longevity, isn't it, with O'Sullivan, all the years he's been around. We knew he was a precocious talent as a very young player. But as Dave said, all these years later, you know, he's still doing it. And he still plays the game like a young man. I think that's the other point, because most players, as they get older, they start to play the game differently to when they were young. But I don't think O'Sullivan does.
Well, of course, when he won the UK Championship 30 years ago now, at 17, he became
42.
the youngest ever ranking event winner. I recently had the pleasure of interviewing the man who's the oldest, Ray Reardon. He won one when he was 50. And I asked him if he thought
43.
Ronnie O'Sullivan would take his record, and he said, absolutely, I do. Obviously, that's a couple of years away yet.
He wants to bounce this away from the cushion, that's okay. And the other thing about where the last red, Ali Carter will be hoping that that comes into play, but with the brown next to it, just getting on the red any sort of angle, straight or anything, will be enough, because it's pretty easy for his next colour. Perhaps not finishing there though. He's got to play a good positional shot here with his opposite hand. Not ideal.
57.
Oh, this is a desperately difficult shot now. It may not look so, but rolling it in from there, tough.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 57.
Just went wrong for O'Sullivan, the shot before the left-handed pink, where he just didn't get onto a colour nicely.
So 29 in it, still 35 available.
is riding on this last red. Carter would fancy, if it comes his way, that he could still win this frame, of course, from here. But for now, after O'Sullivan hitting that last shot and the red hitting the bump of the middle pocket, it's left him in a not the most straightforward safety shot in return. No, he's played it well enough. Just concentrate on keeping the object ball safe. Well, the frame very much alive, despite the lead of 29 points. Well, that's a dangerous way to play it. Red bouncing away from the cushion, and now frame ball for O'Sullivan, and not a difficult one either.
Yes, another shake of the head from Carter. He's had chances in both of the two opening frames. But it's looking like 2-0 O'Sullivan.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to lose the first two against a player of the calibre of Ronnie O'Sullivan, but when there's an argument that he could have won them both, it's not a by far away anything like an ideal start that he's made here, Ali Carter. He's got in. O'Sullivan has been a little rusty, but he's still going to be 2-0 up.
Yeah, O'Sullivan has looked pretty serene, actually. He's not played flawlessly by any means, but he's been businesslike. Shrugged off whatever little errors he's made.
12. Ronnie O'Sullivan, 12.
Ali Carter remains in his chair, so Ronnie O'Sullivan extends his advantage to 2-0. Worrying times already, I think, for Ali Carter. Needs to try and get on the scoreboard here very soon. Yeah, as I say, he's not been blown away with a couple of centuries, has he? You know, he's had chances, but things not quite happening. You can't. I think it must be impossible to ignore the history. You know, all the matches that he's played against him and not come out on top in.
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult if you lose to a player a lot. I know it's O'Sullivan, and we're talking about the greatest, but it is a pretty lopsided head-to-head. If you're watching this on Discovery Plus, by the way. playing the last event as he was meant to. He pulled out late on.
Just to say on table 2, Hussein Vafai has won the first frame against Mark Selby, of course, who he beat in both the UK Championship and the Masters last season. So it's 4-4 on the head-to-head, but 2 big wins in recent memory for Vafai over Selby. That's the winner of that will play Judd Trump, who came through that thrilling match with Jack Lazowski earlier, 6-5. John Higgins was the other winner in the earlier session, 6-3 over Karen Wilson. That was high quality as well. Here it's 2-0 to Ronnie O'Sullivan against Ali Carter.
I think he thought he'd got that when he hit it.
One.
Well, that's well, expected almost left-hand running side on that one to get down on the red to the right corner. O'Sullivan had the other side put on the ball, and
RonnieO'Sullivan,
the fact that he hit a bulk colour was the reason it didn't amount to anything, that little break.
One.
Well, again, Carter in early in a frame with something, albeit, you know, where those reds are and the black buried in amongst them, it's not right to say that it's a good chance at this point. So taking the red away from just below and to the right, the pink, that'll help matters.
7.
Well, as you saw there, the pink wasn't on its spot, and when it is respotted, it goes a little bit awkwardly just above those 4 reds. Perhaps not possible.
13. 14.
Now this would be an opportunity, I think, to nudge the reds here. Maybe the couple of reds around the black ball. Yeah, that's what he's tried. I thought he played it well. He's a bit unlucky.
19.
Yeah, he's been positive, hasn't he, in the match so far, but it just didn't happen for him there.
Carter 19.
Just a bit of a worrying trend, though, isn't it? We've only had 2 and a bit frames, but Carter getting in and not making any telling breaks. Nothing that's going to hurt O'Sullivan from those chances.
Yeah, of course, the last match O'Sullivan played was against Luca Brissell at the Crucible, where he was just basically blasted off the table in the last session. It was an extraordinary 7-frame burst from Brissell, who we will see tomorrow, by the way, against Mark Williams.
Well, that couldn't have gone much more wrong, actually. That attempted safety shot, he hit a number of reds.
One.
Yeah, that last session against Luca Brissell, 10-6 up. I mean, I felt that Luca would have had a chance, perhaps 9-7 down, because he was playing quite well. But goodness, he played brilliantly, and as well as he played, it was almost what O'Sullivan has done to so many others. Ronnie had no answer in the few chances he did get in that session of snooker.
Nine.
It's not the easiest chance. The Reds are quite awkwardly set up from here. Well, this red that he's
16.
looking at, going into 2 others, this is really difficult. It's a superb
17.
shot, superb. Didn't get any applause for it, but I can tell you it was delightfully played.
RonnieO'Sullivan 17.
Well, after the shot before, must say I'm not surprised he overcut that, especially given that he was trying to hold. If you're going to try and hold so delicately, often you'd miss it on the other side of the pocket, that ball.
One.
Carter must take advantage of this chance.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's still early in the match, but, you know, 3-0, Sullivan have a great cushion, and you could see him really running away with things.
Eight.
Of course, they played in
9.
2 World Finals, these two, but the match I particularly remember them playing was in Belfast in 2007, the old Northern Ireland Trophy. It was only best of 9, and O'Sullivan made 5 centuries to win 5-2. So, you know, all that is there in the background, just how well he's played over the years against the man at the table now.
Played a good shot there to land on that red by the pink. Just about enough of the red available, I think. Tight one. Peggy Lee was
17.
standing behind as if to say that she wasn't entirely sure whether it was going to be a question of hitting the pink first, but of course, as you saw, the pink didn't even move. Chance to perhaps nudge one of the 2 reds below the black here. That's a beautiful shot.
$24. 25.
I think this table seems to be conducive to the balls just dropping in down the cushion rail. I've seen a few go in, but Carter not playing on that red and not taking the risk. He could easily have played on the red below the black. Chose not to.
32.
Isn't it great to see a big crowd in, as we've seen already in this tournament? They've been starved, obviously, of professional snooker for 4 years.
Well, that's an excellent shot. It was quite a big target, the two reds, but he singled out the one he wanted to get on. Difference is 33 points. So the other two slightly more difficult reds will still come into play. He can't win the frame just by red colour here. He'll need red colour red. So there's a possibility of O'Sullivan getting back into the frame. But it's in Carter's hands. And now he's going to play on the red that he didn't want to play on earlier on. On the cushion, and it'll be frame ball from this black. I guess it helps to know he won't need the colour, so he'll probably play it as gently as he can, giving it every
45.
chance to drop. Frame ball.
46.
So this time, Ali Carter has stepped up. O'Sullivan overcut a black, didn't he, to this corner.
$53.
53 from Ali Carter.
Ali Carter 53.
O'Sullivan nods his head in concession, so Carter is on the scoreboard. It was an important visit, that, after what happened in the first two frames. He's now properly involved in this match. O'Sullivan's lead cut to 2-1. Well, that'll make him feel, obviously, a lot better, the fact that he took that chance out nicely. And still an opportunity to enter the interval all square at 2-2.
Area, enjoying the new season, enjoying the commentary. Good luck with the new season. Thank you very much, Martin, for that. Glad you're enjoying the coverage.
Well, the only way is Essex here in Shanghai. We've got Chigwell's Ronnie O'Sullivan and Chelmsford's Ali Carter. It's 2-1 to O'Sullivan. Carter's won that last frame with a break of 53. We've got one more to come before the interval. It's still 1-0, slightly slower going next door. Hussein Vafai leading Mark Selby. That's live on Discovery Plus, but here we go. Frame 4. Remember, O'Sullivan last lost in this city in 2016. Obviously, we haven't had a tournament for 4 years, but he won the previous 3 stagings of the Shanghai Masters, the ranking event, where he beat Judd Trump with a terrific all-round display. It wasn't all breaks, it was a lot of good safety, 10-3, and then he beat Barry Hawkins 11-9 and Sean Murphy 11-9 to win the 2 invitation versions of this tournament.
Lovely shot and beautifully controlled cue ball off 2 cushions. Side cushion first. Almost slows it up. And got him on the black nicely. So an early in for O'Sullivan, which hasn't been necessarily the case in the 3 previous frames.
8. RonnieO'Sullivan, 8.
An early in and an early out. That was a surprising miss, really. Obviously, I mean, he'll have been practicing, but he hasn't had a competitive match since April.
Yeah, I mean, there is no substitute for match play, though, is there? You can practice. It's a bit like going on the golf range, isn't it? A driving range, you're going to hit good balls mostly all the time. It doesn't mean you do it on the first tee. Obviously, O'Sullivan knows exactly what he's doing when it comes to his practice, but there is no substitute for match play.
No, I think it'll be, I mean, it's always an interesting season in terms of how he gets on, but, you know, he missed out, didn't he, last season on some of the prestige events, the Players' Championship, the Tour Championship, wasn't in those, where he'd always be a heavy favourite in them, but didn't get enough ranking points. So in the ranking tournaments, he needs to pull his socks up a little bit this season. As Carter knocks that one in.
I think O'Sullivan's strategy last year was based around the UK Championship day, wasn't it? Early season and the lucrative prize, but got to the quarterfinals and was whitewashed by Ding Junhui. Kind of that scuppered the plans. I think he felt that he would probably get enough in the way of points to get him through the other events, but it never quite happened.
No, I mean, he has done that before, hasn't he? Many times. And then Carter lining the brown up. Yeah, big shot. Yeah, but there's so many ranking lists now. It's literally a full-time job to keep on top of them. Matt Hewitt from the WPBSA does exactly that, and many other things as well. And he has various sort of lists you can refer to, including, if you take all the points off that are coming off during the season, the end-of-season rankings.
6.
And on that, O'Sullivan's 21st. Now, obviously, there's a lot of snooker to come in the next few months, but with the points coming off as they are, he needs to get points back on to keep his ranking up where it should be. Carter, on the other hand, is actually 6th on that list.
13. 14. 21. 22.
With the blue away from its spot, I think positional play on the reds is going to be very precise. It's always nice to think you've got the blue to fall back on positionally, but whatever happens, the break looks to be at an end
29.
here. That was not the best split. He sort of screwed in and away from the reds rather than through them.
Hardy Carter, 29.
Just going back to O'Sullivan's, the red he missed in the middle at the start of this frame. He kind of overscrewed it, he overhit it actually. Of course, you've got plenty of time in your chair watching your opponent to think about those shots. I'm sure he's not overjoyed with Despite the 2-1 lead, how he's playing here, he's not played brilliantly. Just about in front, just about doing enough to lead. Handy little nudge there on the yellow. It's made this safety shot more difficult for Ali Carter to tackle. I think if Carter could get to the interval 2-all, yes, I know he's 2-0 down and wasn't looking so good then, but 2-2, I think he'd be quite delighted to have eased his way into this match at last. So this frame's quite a big one, I guess. That's going in.
Foul. Ali Carter 4.
Ronnie was looking a little bit flat, but with 6 reds lined up down the centre of the table, he might have just put a bit of spring in his step there. Look at those reds. What a chance.
1.
Yes, that won't necessarily be enough to win in the frame. The other 3 reds at the bottom of the table close together come into play. Just might get him going though. It was a poor shot from Carter. That was a
8.
fairly easy safety shot that he got wrong.
9.
Peggy Lee in charge here. Nice to see, of course, the Chinese officials again. We saw Zheng Wei Li and some of the others that we're used to seeing over the years back in business. Remember, there are 3 ranking events in China on the World Snooker Tour this season: the Wuhan Open, International Championship, and World Open.
22.
O'Sullivan was saying earlier in the year he's looking to play much more in Asia towards the end of his career, whenever that is. We saw him, of course, at the 6 Reds World Championship in Thailand last season.
Well, it was always his target, I think, to bring those reds into play. He could hardly have done it any better. Now he will be thinking that the frame is very winnable at this visit. Until then, those reds were open, he might not have thought so.
31.
A little bit straight on this brown to get down towards the reds from it. He's got to force it.
Peggy Lee having to sort of try and keep people still and stop taking pictures and all the rest of it when they're in his eye line.
$35.
I think he'll settle to finish there. It was quite a good shot, actually.
$36.
Well, he's really focused well here. As you say, in his seat he looked a bit flat, but when the chance came, he sprung to life.
42. 43.
Carter's had enough table time to be in front at the interval himself, but certainly 2-2 was calling until that last shot he played.
Needs colour, red colour here, and he will have that lead.
$65.
Well, I think he needed this because, as Dave was saying, you know, he was looking just a little bit as if he was lacking in any confidence. It was a gilt-edged chance. Could do no more than take it when they come, and he has.
Yeah, he's been impressive here. I think he really just came to life when the chance came, got the reds into play early.
77.
Not seen fireworks yet, but this has been a really good break. And a reminder, of course, of how good he is. And Ali Carter's seen plenty of that down the years.
81.
He's also seen plenty of the table here. But he's going to be 3-1 down at the interval with work to do.
86.
Can't quite make the century. But there's time enough for that, as long as he's still here in Shanghai this week.
92.
So Ronnie O'Sullivan clears the table with 99 to take a 2-frame lead into the interval, and Ali Carter will look back on a few mistakes that he's made, a few missed opportunities to be level or even in front in this match. Still a long way to go. 7
then the lead was extended even further here, with the score ending up at 5-2. Trump already 2 in front at this point, so needing one more frame. You think, well, maybe that's how the story will end, but as we're almost certainly going to see, there was more mileage in the match from that point in, because, as they say, sometimes getting the last frame is the difficult one. It's the sometimes your opponent finds a little bit extra, and the player that's in front tenses up somewhat. So I'm not going to say it's a dangerous lead, because you always like to be 3 up with a possible 4 to play, but Lazowski's started to come back into the match at this point, so got it to 5-3. And I suppose the match deserved it to be a bit closer. Had it gone 6-2, it probably wouldn't have been a reflection of how the early frames went. Just interesting, we looking at a little run of shots there. Anyway, at 5-3, I think this is where it looked like Judd was going to get the match won, but he didn't go on and do so in this frame. Playing a delicate little cannon. I think we saw O'Sullivan miss a very similar shot in those few frames we've just seen against Ali Carter. Overcut a thin one trying to hold. Lazowski did well to get it back to within a frame here at 5-4. Got interesting at this point. That was frame ball. Now he's 1 down with 2 to play. Could he take it to a decider? Well, the answer is going to be yes. It was very interesting how things developed from here. There weren't long frames. It was fairly swift progress throughout the session, and it got quite interesting at this point, as I say. He's so dangerous at long range, Jack Lazowski. He's a very hard player to keep out for any long periods. Judd, I'm sure, is completely aware of that. I think he missed this shot, if I'm not mistaken, when he had the match almost won. That's right. And there was a possible back in for Judd Trump, but it never quite materialised. He had the black over the top left pocket from this. I thought leaving it where he did, it's hard to get from black to yellow. He didn't manage it. The double kiss looked on to me here. And if you think the double kiss is on, it usually is. So he got the match to all square at 5-all, and I guess at this point it was going to be anybody's. I thought he played a good shot on the brown to blue. We're not going to see it though. And in the last frame, he's in front here, and this was the ball that should he or shouldn't he have gone for it? I can understand why he did, Dave.
Yeah, it was a chance to win the match, wasn't it? And had he got it, I mean, he potted some actually harder balls arguably before that, but always taking the pink on. He was going to leave a red if he missed. He did. And he played well, Lazowski. He fought back well, but Judd Trump delighted to get that last chance to get the match won, which he did. 6-5. He'll play either Mark Selby or Hussein Vafai in the next round, and they're currently 1 each. Just to say, of course, we conclude the second round tomorrow. Neil Robertson will play Ding Junhui, Mark Allen will play Fang Zhengyi, Sean Murphy will play Robert Milkins, and Luca Purcell will play Mark Williams. Now, let's they're still in that third frame, Selby Vafai, but snooker's required by Vafai. He needs 2 on the last red. Here we go, 42 in it with 35 on. And, you know, you do sort of feel like saying good luck, don't you, to getting them against Selby. It seems like a Herculean task, actually.
Well, it does, because he's actually so good at escaping from snookers. So, yeah, I mean, he's the sort of player who can lay a few and win frames that way. But as you point out, I don't think you'd expect him to lose frames in that manner. Anyhow, it's got a long way to go, that match, isn't it? Let's be honest. So we're quite a long way ahead of it, with Selby possibly going 2-1 up there. So plenty of snooker to be played in that game. It's just I know we keep saying it, but the recent wins for Vafai over Selby in heavy-duty matches is the reason he's got a chance of doing the same again, I think. You know, anyone else you might think, well, Selby will just win, but I'm not so sure about how that match will pan out.
I think Vafai is a very interesting player, isn't he? He's a real character, as we know. He's got a lot of personality. He's quite a quirky individual. And he's really good as well. That's the other thing. He's done well to battle through all the visa issues that he's had to even be getting in these events.
I think the thing that helps him, while this frame, by the way, is over now in favour of Mark Selby, I think Hossein knows that he's not going to beat Mark Selby by trying to outthink him, sort of manoeuvre him in safety. He knows he's got to attack him, and I think that makes his mind up to play in a certain fashion, and that's what has got him those wins in the past.
Well, it's going to be 2-1 to Selby, but as you say, it could be a lot of mileage left in this one yet. You can, of course, continue to enjoy it live on Discovery Plus. And we know Selby will be there until he has to be to get the job done. Number 5 in the rankings as it stands, but of course that's a quite fluid position. The rankings changing after every tournament. Not this one, of course, because this is an invitation event. (2-1) then to Mark Selby, and one more frame to play before their mid-session interval. Just a reminder that the winner will play Judd Trump, of course, came through, as we know, against Jack Lazowski. So here at the grand stage, we're just waiting for Ronnie O'Sullivan and Ali Carter to return. It's 3-1 to O'Sullivan at the mid-session interval. On table 2, Mark Selby leads Hossein Vafaei 2-1. The applause tells you they're on their way. And, well, it's been a competitive match, this. It could have been any score, really, but O'Sullivan looked good in that 4th frame. He made a terrific 99 clearance to get the 2-frame advantage back. So Carter looking to dig in as they return here. Cut out a few safety errors. He has handed a few chances to O'Sullivan, it's got to be said. Still a possible 7 frames to be played here. John Higgins awaits. That would obviously be another meeting of legends if O'Sullivan could get through to play him yet again. Well, there's a chance at this red to far corner. He's not turned much down, actually, Carter. He's been positive today. Can he knock this in? Yes, he can. He stayed right down, didn't he, to the very end there to see it drop into that pocket. So first in. His highest break 53 in the 3rd frame, the one he won.
Thank you. 7. Eight.
Well, no real angle on this blue. So I couldn't really do anything with the cue ball.
13. Ali Carter, 13.
Well, an immediate mistake from O'Sullivan. Outside of the 99 he made in frame 4, he's not been at his absolute sharpest, which is no great surprise, I suppose, considering he's not played competitively since the Crucible.
Yeah, I think it's, as we see Carter miss that chance, I think it's because, you know, you have hope and expectations of playing well, but until you go out there, you just don't know that that's going to happen. I mean, it's always been like that for players at the start of a new season. You just don't really know quite how well you're playing until you get into the match arena. You might think you're playing good stuff. I've no doubt that it won't be long though before we see the best of him, whether it be this week or very soon. This event would be, if you could pick 3 or 4 events maybe that someone like O'Sullivan might win this season, this would certainly be on most people's lists of a possible, given he's won it so often. Good shot from Ali, just to drag it in. And if he's going to stop O'Sullivan, getting it back to 3-2 would seem a pretty important point of the match. He's got to get this frame one. I don't know what he'd change from the first 4 frames if you were in his dressing room, and just do them a little bit better, score more heavily.
At the World Championship in 2008, they played in the final, and early in the tournament they each made a 1-4-7.
13.
Had to split the money.
Maybe a chance to just nudge into the reds here. I don't think there's anything else but that option for him. More than a nudge. Yes, it is an odd one, isn't it? The 3 1-4-7s that Ali Carter has made have been
20.
all been shared. The one at the Crucible and 2 others. So he's not made one on his own in an event. He's had to share the whatever the prize is with somebody else.
A big shot to continue here with reds in play. Nicely cued.
21.
Good signs here for Carter. Yeah, he told me actually about that maximum, because he said at the time, you know, before he was a real top player, and the circuit wasn't doing great in those days, and he said he didn't have a lot of money, and he said it was an enormous thing to pot that black for his own just peace of mind. Okay, he had to share the money, but it was a lot of money to share, and of course all got all the way to the final, and really ever since then he has been a top player.
26.
Ill health, of course, has intervened at times. He's had to manage his Crohn's disease. He's recovered twice from cancer. Just shows you what
27.
a tough character he is.
Well, that's right, isn't it? I mean, I've heard him say more than once that, you know, whatever happens on the snooker table is one thing, but it's nothing compared to real life problems like that. Your health. It's only a game of snooker we're all playing. And he's playing it a lot better here. This is the most fluent we've seen him in the match.
Yes, since he knocked that red into the right middle, as we look at O'Sullivan, he's just got a real spring in his step here. He's fancying the job now in this frame, Carter. Looking to really take the game to O'Sullivan here. Try and get him under a bit of pressure.
38.
Yes, if he has changed anything, I think he has slightly sped his game up. It looks as if he's playing more fluently and a bit quicker. not dwelling over shots.
46.
And the 3 reds in the middle of the table will be more than enough to get this frame won. Just a couple of them will do. This looks like being a pretty quick kill in this 5th frame. And the match is starting to hot up and become very competitive.
This red is the ball.
54.
This is already his highest break of the match as well. But that's the one that makes it 3-2.
55. Two.
It was a great achievement to get back in the top 16, because once you drop out, you can sort of disappear off the radar a bit. You're having to go to qualifiers, and obviously if you're not getting through them, you're not sort of sighted. But he's managed to get himself up to number 11 as the season begins. Well, that's gone wrong, unless he can knock this red in
68.
Down this side cushion. But he's won the frame.
Frame conceded.
68 from the captain. And a pretty quick kill. That's exactly what he needed as the match resumed after the interval. As Ronnie O'Sullivan goes out between frames. The match has got a lot closer. The lead cut to 3-2. As I say, there was a ready knocked into right middle, and right after that, his whole body language seemed to change. He just sort of really started to get a spring in his step and made a nice break to get the frame won.
Yes, getting quite interesting now, isn't it? Just the way that he made that break showed the intent. A long way to go still in the match, but I think O'Sullivan, with a little bit of thinking to do, he doesn't look at his best. We've said we thought we know why. He's perhaps a little rusty, but he's going to have to find his form quite soon. So it should get interesting at this point. Just in front of O'Sullivan.
It's day 2 of the Shanghai Masters here at the Grand Stage in Shanghai, and Ronnie O'Sullivan's lead over Ali Carter is cut to 3-2 after Carter's 68 break there in frame 5. Table 2, Mark Selby leads Hussein Vafai 2-1, and there's still a lot of mileage in frame 4. You can watch that on Discovery Plus, but it doesn't look like an early finish there on table 2.
You know, just wondering what sort of season Ronnie O'Sullivan's going to have this year. Folgy147 is my Twitter. Dave Hendon alongside me at Dave Hendon. Send us a tweet, and we just focus on O'Sullivan. Perhaps, is he going to win his 8th world title? Is he going to win one of the majors? Is he going to win this week? It's hard to know. I mean, is time going to catch up with him? I don't think it is. I think at some point he'll hit his form. If you want to send us a tweet, let us know what you think, then feel free to do so as we wait for O'Sullivan's return.
Well, they're like sort of statues, aren't they? The class of '92, Ronnie and John and Mark. You know, they're just kind of there. And even today, Mark and John have played well and they've won. Mark will play Luke at Brussels tomorrow. Higgins, of course, waiting for the winner of this match. Remarkable trio of players, and they become more remarkable as the years pass. Obviously, you know, they're not winning every week, but they're still winning a lot of matches between them.
Well, I mean, they've got all the experience in the world, which is a great thing, but that's not always enough. Clearly, as you get older, you've got experience of a lot of things, but you know, your eyesight, your coordination, certainly in a sport, would possibly go, but those 3 it doesn't seem to affect. And I mean, I think we mentioned earlier that there was a time when you got to about 40 and everyone thought that, you know, your days as a player were, the best days were behind you. And there's an example of a player that's in his 40s and he's still a top player. And so many are now. It is a slightly different game to what it used to be.
Yes, and of course a lot of them, when it was sort of a young man's game, it's the same people. When it was dominated by 20-somethings, it was the class of 92. They've just moved on. Obviously a lot of other players have come through as well. Mark Selby's turned 40 actually this year. And Sean Murphy, Neil Robertson in recent years.
It seems that they are the peak years. I know that the class of 92 might be the exception, but I think 40-ish is a pretty good age to be a player. You've got all those experiences, good and bad, and obviously the most important thing is you've got to be a good player in the first place.
On we go then with frame 6 of a possible 11. Ronnie O'Sullivan leads 3-2. Ali Carter played a good last frame, now trying to get level.
Well, I think he had a look at that, and the safety shot, the angle back to baulk was always going to be the priority, but he felt that the red was adjacent to the pocket from the plant, and it was. He's not going to take the break any further, though. I think he tried to play that shot where you put the baulk colour into the bunch to open the reds, but he missed the target there off the green.
It's true, of course, snooker's only a game, but Carter is a very competitive character and he's just sensing a chance, I think, in this match now. But he knows from personal experience the danger with O'Sullivan is it just suddenly all comes to life and clicks into gear, and then it can be, well, quite a quick affair. That's the danger. It's not quite happened yet today, but it's always a possibility.
It's a good shot. I mean, the way he plays that shot, you're never going to leave much. But knocking the red in puts him on the black and gets him in early again here. So be a bit early to say this match is just turning on its head, but you do feel right now that of the two, Ali Carter's got a little bit more spring in his step, a bit more rhythm in his game. Easy when they're potting the balls, but just the general body language would favour Carter, but not the scoreline still.
70.
Yeah, not badly played at all. Obviously, the angle he's got on his next colour, he's not so easy to get down for a red. Just off straight, the wrong side on the green. He'd have to force this in to go around the angles. Well, he's looking at the black, I think. This is quite a thin one. And this is a big shot if he takes it on. Well, he is going to play it by the looks of things. It was between two. But this is a significant shot that he's playing here. It's a delightful shot. That is a very positive shot selection from Carter to play a black, which was a lot more difficult to pot than the green, but offered better position.
$25. $32.
A choice of reds, the red to the right middle, a little close to it with the cue ball, so the other one screwing off the bunch onto the black. Well, how about that? Well, right now, Carter is looking by far and away the best he's played in the match, and probably the best spell from either player, I would say, pretty confidently.
Yeah, I mean, he's given every shot everything, isn't he?
40.
After that good break in the last frame, he's obviously feeling good. Sensing an opportunity here.
$41. $48. $49. $56.
So all the hard work has been done with regards to getting this frame one at this visit. He's got to make sure that he doesn't leave anything behind here and goes on and clinches the frame.
64.
We should set the match up. It's quite intriguing the way that it's poised. O'Sullivan led 3-1, but hasn't really figured since the mid-session
55.
interval.
Well, this has been a very accomplished
68.
contribution. And you can just see the confidence in him now.
69.
So, very interesting match. He needed to do something after the interval. My word, he has done. He's put together two very good frames.
75.
I wonder if he's got any thoughts of just nudging the red over on the right. No, I think he's going to go to the bottom of the cue ball. So the two on his side of the table are the ones he's playing on. Thought he might have been trying to play on the other red on the right side. Not much you can do in this game sitting in a chair. O'Sullivan he probably already knew he had to play better than he was at 3-1, but if he didn't, he certainly does now. No century, but a good break all the same.
Yeah, very good. He'd be disappointed, I think, not to make the century, but 83, that's his highest contribution of the day so far, and he's put together two excellent frames since the interval. He's looking confident, so game on here in Shanghai. Ronnie O'Sullivan led 3-1 at the interval, but he's been pegged back to 3-3. Just having a little snack just to keep the energy up, but just had to sit and watch that break, and
why Carter has won those two frames so swiftly. So this sets up a very intriguing game from now on in at 3-all. O'Sullivan, he looks okay. He knows there's not much he can do, but he'll have to pick up his form.
Table 2, Mark Selby needs blue and pink to take a 3-1 lead over Hussein Vafai. It's 3-3 between Ronnie O'Sullivan and Ali Carter here at the grand stage of the Shanghai Masters. Now, earlier on we saw Judd Trump beat his good friend Jack Lazowski 6-5. He led 5-2. He had to hold off a comeback, and indeed it looked like it might be Lazowski's day. He missed a pink, and Trump stepped in to make a good clearance. We can hear now what Judd Trump had to say about that decider.
Frame 7, Ali Carter to break.
Judd Trump will play either Mark Selby or Hussein Vafai in the quarterfinals. John Higgins is waiting for the winner of this match, Ronnie O'Sullivan and Ali Carter, which is currently all square at 3-3.
Quite a big target where the brown and green are as far as the bulk colours to get him behind. And I think Carter has just about covered, well, certainly most of the reds, not all of them. It's made things difficult for O'Sullivan. Such a good shot from O'Sullivan. That really is a high-class safety shot that he's played there. And Carter, I think, had no choice but to acknowledge it. He tapped the table. He played a good shot, but O'Sullivan's return was even better. Oh dear. So the good O'Sullivan safety shot has created this chance, although Ali Carter would be annoyed that he's got the double kiss there. He didn't try to hit the red quite so full on as he did. But with the black safe, you know, it's only, well, it's more than a half chance, but at this stage it's not a particularly good chance, but O'Sullivan is so good at turning a half chance into a lot more.
One.
Well, that's certainly in
7.
O'Sullivan's favour. I think he was banking on the pink not respotting and going on the black spot.
8. $14.
Wow, that's an
Ronnie O'Sullivan,
unexpected miss
14.
and a sort of just at the point when he would be hoping to pick his game up, he misses a sitter. Just trying to roll it in. He's not. I don't know if he had any ideas about the cannon on the other red, or hard to find a valid reason why
1.
that he wouldn't pot that one.
Well, Carter just felt a twinge there or something, just steadying himself. But certainly after that last miss from O'Sullivan, Carter's got to start to fancy that it could be his day. We know he's playing well, and it's an unexpected opening for him.
$8.
Well, he certainly didn't want to be on the blue into the corner pocket. Wanted an angle to the middle to potentially get the reds open, and that's not an option now. Certainly not from the blue. He's finished in between various shots here that get him from colour to red. He could take at least 3 colours here, and they're all much of a muchness. Nothing is particularly appealing with regards to keeping this break alive. Well, he's screwing in and out of bolt. Great effort, but he was up against it, I think, there.
13. Hardy Carter, 13.
Well, he was absolutely determined to try and keep the break going, which in itself is a sign of confidence, but he has left a potential pot here to the green pocket.
One.
So O'Sullivan missed that red, but comes back to the table still in front in the frame, albeit slightly hampered queuing here.
Well, he certainly tried to avoid that red. He's actually a little fortunate to have a shot at it down the cushion.
6.
Now, crucially, he has an angle, either to go directly into the bunch or with topspin around 2 cushions. I think directly is the plan. Oh, that's a good split. That is a really good split, because unless you hit that full on, it's going to be quite difficult to get them open and not lose the cue ball to the side cushion rail.
13.
Well, surely not, but he looks like he's finished
19.
in an area where he's not got an easy shot. I think one of the reds goes to the right corner, but it's a bit of a stretch.
20.
This is the point where if Ronnie O'Sullivan's going to win this match, he needs to pick up his form. Missed a bad red earlier on into that pocket. But he's in a position where he's been so many times where he knows
26.
a little ability to raise his game is really what he's looking for.
27.
Plenty of those reds are available. There's a little bunch of 4. I think they almost all go to the left corner if he needs to from that
34.
side.
34.
And you can see that I think they all go. It's quite a handy setup of the balls. The lead is 41 points, so not a huge amount more to do in this frame. That split was the
41.
reason this break has happened. It was a beautiful shot from the blue into the reds.
Well, Ali Carter, as I say, he was determined to just try and keep the break going, but he did offer the initial pot to the green pocket. And O'Sullivan this time has stepped up. Check of the scores, he still needs this pink. And in it goes.
$53. 54. $60. 61.
Brown's not great, but there is enough on for what would be his first century of the season.
$67. 68.
Yeah, I think it would be a difficult century to make from here, especially if he's straight on this green. Maybe he's got an angle to force it across.
79.
Play a left-handed shot, no doubt, which he's so adept at, to get from brown to blue.
83.
So now it seems possible, doesn't it?
Well, this is what I was saying earlier. You know, this can happen, this sort of burst of inspiration almost out of nowhere.
88.
Well, he's looking at the route from pink to black, and it's quite a long way. And he's coming towards the black, not necessarily on the black. Oh, that's a great shot, though. He mapped it out, Dave.
You could see him, couldn't you? You could see him looking around the table. And the black goes in for career century number 1,203. There's a lot of chatter about who'll be the second to 1,000, but of course this man was the first, and what a delightful clearance that was. Just what he needed, with Ali Carter coming back at him. O'Sullivan clears up to lead 4-3. Yeah, well, Carter was looking confident. He was playing well, but couldn't quite keep it going in that last frame. And when the chance came, O'Sullivan just stepped in and stepped up. And you heard the roar as the black went in as well. Well, pink to black, and then the actual pot itself to complete the century.
Yeah, and of course he potted the brown ball left-handed. We take for granted his ability to do that. It was some shot. So yeah, it was a burst of inspiration. That's what he needed. That's what the match perhaps needed, although Carter coming back initially was a good reason why the match got to this quite interesting point, and there was a century made. So well done to Ronnie, but he's only one up still.
Yeah, it's turned into a really good match, actually. It was took a little bit of time maybe to get going, but now quality's really increased, and the crowd here really enjoying it. So Ali Carter played two very good frames, and he did have a chance in that seventh, but Ronnie O'Sullivan with a 101 clearance to lead 4-3. Possible 4 frames still to play. Now then, on the other table, Mark Selby won a very tight 4th frame to lead 3-1 against Hussein Vafai, who beat him at the UK Championship and the Masters last season. But Selby, of course, had a very good season overall, and he's in first in frame 5. He's
made a career out of a lot of things, Selby, but one of them is pinching frames. And it looked for all the world that was going to be 2-2 at the mid-session, but he, like you say, it was a close frame, but it's one that he was always behind in. So that's why he has that lead. And well done to him for that. It's an interesting sort of a match. Stephen King has said that he thinks that John Higgins will have a big tournament this season. I think no one could deny him that. Lee Murphy says Ronnie for the 8th title this season. That's what he's looking at. And Kelly Barker says she reckons that Ronnie will win 1 or 2 of the big invitations, like this one perhaps. And he's obviously still capable of winning everything. Well, he won't win everything because he won't play in everything, but I know what you're saying. And as she also adds, I think, building on that point, that he doesn't necessarily have the motivation for regular ranking events, but she wouldn't rule out another world title. And a lot of people are saying that they still feel that Ronnie's got another big title in him. I'm sure that's right, actually. I don't think any of us would dare to say otherwise. And Steve Madrick saying that Sean Murphy will have a great season. Mark Allen may struggle to replicate last year. It's about time that Jack Lazowski and Karen Wilson showed their best. Couldn't argue with any of those things. Thanks for those as we await Ronnie's return.
Well, there's so many names there. This is the problem, isn't it? There's so many good players. You know, I mean, Jack played well in this tournament, but he just came up short in that decider against Judd Trump earlier, as O'Sullivan returns here for frame 8.
Frame 8. Ronnie O'Sullivan to work.
Well, it was a wonderful break, wasn't it, that he just made his first century of this new campaign. And it's put him 4-3 in front. Nothing that Ali Carter hasn't seen firsthand before, of course. Just as he was looking really good in the match, the momentum shifts again. Of course, he made his 1000th century at the Preston Guildhall in the last frame of the Players' Championship final 2019, and we believe that venue will be reopening, so maybe there could be some more snooker there in the future. It's, of course, where he also won the UK title at the age of 17. Little appreciative tap on the table for that thin safety from Carter. It's turned into a really good match, this.
Well, playing off the side of the bunch is not an easy safety shot with that red on the left, which is a big target to hit. And I think that's why Carter isn't thinking about that option. Unless he, of course, has to try and avoid the red on the way back up. But it's a pretty important safety shot that he's faced with here. Well, he played that red to avoid going into the other one. Ronnie seems to think it was a good shot. Tap the table.
That's the thing. I mean, obviously people have spoken about what happened at the Crucible 5 years ago, but there's always been respect as players between them. They wouldn't necessarily go out to dinner together, but you don't have to. They admire each other as players. Another terrific shot.
Well, they've grown up in the same part of the world, and I think, I mean, I don't know the full details, but I'm sure they practiced together for many years. A lot of the Essex boys have done, and yeah, they're contemporaries over a long period of time, aren't they?
And involved in another battle here. Of course, it's very one-sided, the head-to-head. There have been close matches within that. There have been 4 deciders that O'Sullivan's won along the way, including one here, in fact, in Shanghai in the old China Open in 2002.
Again, that red on the left is slightly annoying him. He could play safe and aim to go around the back of that red. He's just got to be mindful of it. Doesn't want to hit it on the way back up. Exactly what he's done. Full ball as well. That shot, it's sometimes really difficult to avoid the one ball that you know is a possible target. He tried to go around the back of it and failed.
1. Seven.
It's not as straightforward as it might seem, this chance.
8.
Allowed that shot to hit the red full ball and almost cleared away from the blue spot. So the blue becomes potable to both pockets, both middles. And there's a red near the black spot, so you wouldn't want to play on the black until that red has been shifted. Just one of these situations where you've got to piece together a few shots and make things happen, and the table becomes more favourable for scoring. And again, O'Sullivan is very good at making those things all come together.
13. 14.
Well, there's the thin blue line. So taking the brown. Oh, it stays out.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 14.
Shows what a difference it can make, not getting right side of the blue.
One.
Well, bearing in mind how well he played from
1.
3-1 to 3-3, that's a surprising miss, you've got to say. Maybe a bit of tension creeping in, which you can understand, of course.
Yeah, I think the shot looked on, but he seems to have got the pace right. He's just covered the reds, but of course Carter, not only is he in this snooker, he's probably still thinking about the last shot. Can't roll into the bunch because there's a red, as you can see, in open play. It's not that easy to work out what the shot is here out of this snooker. There's a temptation to hit these as hard as you can, and that's what he's going to do. Attentional pockets. I had the funny feeling that he was getting himself ready to do that. It's a combination of being in a difficult snooker and a little bit of frustration. And he unleashed one there. And to be honest, it could hardly have gone worse. I mean, can you think of a better chance than this that could come O'Sullivan's way? Balls everywhere.
1.
Yeah, it's not really where you want to leave the greatest break builder in the game's history, is it?
In his defence, yeah, it was a pretty wretched snooker to be in. So whatever you do, you might leave one. But he was hoping he might just fluke one or do something different, and it never quite happened.
7.
Well, of course, famously in this tournament, we saw a hit and hope
8.
that had a massive effect on the result, didn't we? Mark Selby, Mark Williams that time, where Selby was he was in a snooker and sort of lashed out, and it wasn't quite clear what he'd hit.
The one thing I remember about that day was that the normally unflappable Mark Williams, everything
30.
just passes him by without him getting annoyed. Was absolutely
14.
enraged by it, and he almost, I think he left, and he He's since said that he was thinking about not returning for the rest of the match. And I've never seen him like that before or since.
Well, on this occasion, the hit and hope didn't work, and Ali Carter will feel he's going to be 5-3 down. We'll see. O'Sullivan has missed a couple today, but we saw him make that terrific century in the last frame.
20.
Just a build-up, wasn't it? The missed ball followed by the O'Sullivan snooker behind the brown, and then the
27.
sort of launch into the bunch, and now this. How things can change in a matter of shots.
$34. $35.
So just a couple more pots to go to get to 5-3.
42.
Just a check of the scores, 55 in front, so the pink makes it 61 with 59 remaining. It's called a hit and hope for a reason. You're hoping you'll either fluke one or get it safe somehow. Neither happened.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it done just because a player is generally
49.
frustrated, but I just feel that he didn't have much of an option. So there you are. The upshot is this, and it could have been that he ended up fluking a red. Enough reds moved, none of them went in.
54. 55.
Well, there is enough on again, potentially for another century. Obviously, going to get the red by the black into play. That'll do it. Well, this is why they all come, of course, here today. It's a full house, as you'd expect, and so many hoping to see him later in the tournament. Things are looking good on that score now.
68.
And as I said in the last frame, I'm sure there'll be more players who'll get to 1,000 centuries, but there's only ever going to be one Neil Armstrong, isn't there, on that score? And we're looking at him here. He was the first.
Well, that's true, but when they get to 1,000, he'll be on certainly 1250 or more, won't he? Maybe even more than that, depending on how much he plays.
74.
Because the interesting thing is how far he gets on that number in his career whenever it ends. He's not going to make one this frame, though.
No, the yellow has the temerity to jump off the table. So the break ends at 74, but O'Sullivan took full advantage of the chance he was handed there by Ali Carter, and the match having been very much in the balance at 3-3, suddenly O'Sullivan is a big favourite again. He leads 5-3, and he needs one more to set up a meeting with John Higgins. So two good frames from O'Sullivan, and a lot for Ali Carter to think about. 101 and 74, the breaks there from the Rocket. And as I say, one more frame, and it'll be 16-1 on the head-to-head between them. We've had a lot of competitive matches in that time, but obviously the end result is what you look at, and massively favouring the man in the picture there. So Ronnie O'Sullivan, who has not lost in Shanghai since 2016, won the last 3 stagings until the event stopped 4 years ago. He leads 5-3 here in the last 16 against Ali Carter, and will need to put one more frame on the board, and it'll be O'Sullivan-Higgins, El Clasico once again.
Frame 9.
Can Carter fight back? He's given everything in this match, but he's up against it now. So Carter, who looked so good for a couple of frames after the interval, firmly on the back foot now. He knows he's potentially one error from the match being over, and yet another defeat at the hands of O'Sullivan.
Well, I know why he tried to hit that so thin,
Wow.
make such a
Enemies.
thin contact, because again,
Ronnie O'Sullivan,
a bit like the previous frame, the 2 reds on the right are such a huge target on the way back down to bulk. The natural angle just goes into the 2 reds on the safety shot. So he's trying to hit the red particularly thin. So I suspect he might try it again, and if he was to miss this time, another shot would have to be played, because he's got access to so many reds full ball. So that's the reason of the very thin contact, because any other just hits the 2 reds all day long on the way back up.
foul. Enemies. Ronnie O'Sullivan, 4. Yes.
So he'll be warned here, because he can see one full ball. Peggy Lee will read him the riot act, basically. That if a miss is called, it's frame over.
Are you happy for this?
Yeah, a match over. There's the warning.
Lose the frame, lose the match, everything gone. He's playing a different shot. Which really was out of necessity. You know, it may have looked a poor shot, but he didn't know what to do. That's why he didn't play that first time.
This is the thing. I mean, obviously O'Sullivan has got to pop the balls, but it could be match over anyway.
1. 7.
I was talking to a player recently about Ronnie O'Sullivan, and he was saying something quite interesting. He said, I don't think a lot of people understand the pressure that he's under to try and perform, you know, with his record and what people have seen down the years. If you go and see him, you're hoping he's going to turn it on, and it's very hard to do that at will, particularly in a match like this where, you know, he's not played for months in a tournament, but from 3-3 he's looked very, very good. Big crowd here, been hoping to see him certainly perform, and I'm sure many of them want to see him win. This is his chance to do that.
I would say one thing, that he has played really well, but he has been presented with those chances in those 3 frames. I don't think he's created them.
22.
You know, I guess he created the chance in the previous frame with the snooker behind the brown, so that was good, which Carter decided to just hit as hard as he could. Understood why he played the shot, but you know, there's an argument that the safety's got him in rather than his long game has been pretty much, say, non-existent, but it's not been a factor today, O'Sullivan. It's close control, which is just starting to come together, I think.
30.
Well, I think it'll be, I mean, it's always an interesting match when he plays John Higgins, but we know Higgins is playing good stuff. You know, he played well again today, another win over Karen Wilson, and he certainly doesn't fear O'Sullivan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Ronnie does go on and win this match, you would say that right now, perhaps John Higgins would be potentially a favourite, not necessarily in the eyes of the bookmakers, but the point you're making, that he's a little bit further into the season than O'Sullivan.
38.
And there isn't a lot to choose between them over 30 years, so
39.
it would be interesting to see it anyway. Whoever's going to win it, we're not entirely sure. But right now, O'Sullivan with a chance to get this match won and make it all happen. Into the bunch. Well, that's not perfect. He's on a thin red, but
44.
for the shot he played, which was a pretty gentle cannon, might have hoped that something better than this would come his way.
There you are, a little late twist. Ali Carter was not quite thinking about the flight home, but things weren't looking good for him. But it was a very thin red that O'Sullivan attempted, didn't get it. So, okay, he's 52 behind, but this is a good chance.
1.
And Sullivan showed frustration. I think, as I said at the time, just felt that the split of the bunch left a few awkward little shots, but the other thing that happened was he cleared the red away from the black spot in doing so, and he's given Carter a gift here. Will he take it? Oh, kick. I believe that was a poor contact. We don't see that many of them, but I think we saw one there.
Didn't sound nice, did it? Well, if that's his last shot, which it probably will be, that's horrible for Carter. I was just looking at the table, you know, there was one red on a cushion, that was basically it, but that's a pretty nasty thing to happen, certainly at that stage.
Nine. Sixteen. 17.
Well, it's been eventful. It always seems to be when Ronnie O'Sullivan plays. We're wondering what sort of shape he would be in. Well, we can find out how deep he'll go in the tournament after this match, because he'll be here for the next round, of course, against John Higgins. Ali Carter, as always, is giving it everything, but it's going to now be on the head-to-head to O'Sullivan, 16 wins to 1.
Yeah, I think it's work in progress, isn't it, for O'Sullivan? He has showed some glimpses, maybe a few more than glimpses of his best. But I'm sure, knowing the kind of person he is and how he often sets himself high targets, he mightn't think that he played that well. You never quite know what he'll say. He might say he played brilliantly, but I'm not sure that's quite how it's been. But ultimately, match one of the season, massive tournament
39.
against
40.
an opponent who won a match the day before. I think most players will be pretty pleased with this.
Well, the thing is, he's held to a very high standard, the standards that he's produced, which includes some of the best snooker ever played. But, like you say, first match in several
46.
months. The fact is, he doesn't have to play his best always to win, does he? And
47.
he's played well enough. Be a very interesting match, as ever, against John Higgins, who's playing good stuff himself. Two all-time legends, contemporaries, are going to go head-to-head again for a place in the semis. One not to be missed. Ali Carter's gathering his things. It was a horrible way for him to end his run here with that kick when he had a good chance. He can't wait now to get out of the place.
I looked over at him, actually. He looked really disappointed, maybe with his performance. The kick,
61.
I mean, to get a kick these days, I mean, the equipment has
63.
improved that we're using, and we don't see many of them. But we saw one there. I mean, I've absolutely no doubt it was a kick. It sounded bad, and it came off with a thick contact.
66.
And it's always unlucky. People used to say kicks were bad cueing. Well, obviously that's nonsense, because we don't get them as many now.
70.
It's just the way it is.
So Ronnie O'Sullivan's 32nd season as a professional starts with a victory. He had to work for it. He led 3-1, 3-3. Carter was on top. O'Sullivan
81.
made his first century of the campaign, 101, and he's finished off a winner by 6 frames to 3. And he will take on another all-time legend, John Higgins, in the quarterfinals of the Shanghai Masters. He still hasn't lost in this tournament since 2016. Who's going to beat him? There's a lot of top players still around.